And that's the tea on that. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be listing the things that I wish I knew about UCLA before I came. This is going to be part one of a series where I describe the pros and cons of UCLA. So this video is going to be more the cons and like things I wish I knew. And then the pros video will be coming very soon, so make sure you subscribe so that you'll get notified when that goes up. This video will be split into two different parts. So the first half is going to be like all about classes and enrollment and like grades and stuff. And then the second half is going to be more social, living, housing, what it's like to live as a student at UCLA. If you want to skip to the second half, I'll leave the timestamp down below in the description, but definitely stay around for the whole video. I really try to make this specific to UCLA. Yes, there's some things that apply to all colleges, but I did try to make this specific to UCLA, so I really hope this helps you guys out. Just some general background information on me. I'm a freshman. I'm currently in my third quarter at UCLA, and I'm a pre-business economics major. I'm from Seattle, Washington, so I'm an out-of-state student. And of course, I just want to leave a disclaimer at the beginning. All of these opinions are my own. There might be another student at UCLA who has a completely different experience and disagrees with everything I say. I did get some of my friends' opinions when I was making this video, so I want to give you guys a well-rounded kind of point of view and bring in some different viewpoints. But yeah, for the most part, my friends and I all agree on these things. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on to the video. Okay, so as I said, the first half is going to be about classes, grades, enrollment, more of like the academic side of UCLA. First thing is, if you're looking at UCLA, something really important to know is that our academic system is a quarter system. So some schools have quarter systems and some have semester systems. Obviously, there are pros and cons to both of them, but some things I wish I'd known about the quarter system is one, it is very, very fast. Our quarters are made up of 10 weeks, and generally each class will have 1 to 2 midterms throughout the quarter and then a final during week 10 or finals week. Finals week is the week right after week 10. So with that, I always felt like there was a midterm or a final right around the corner. I always felt like I had something I need to study for because I kind of did. A classic example is my math class. So I had 2 midterms, one during week 3, one during week 7, and then a final during finals week. So pretty much week 1 and 2, you're preparing for the first midterm. And then once you're done with that, you're like, whew, okay, I got that done. And then week 4, you're, kind of like chilling a little bit. And then the next week, week 5, 6, you're preparing for week 7 midterm. Then week 7 midterm is done, and then, you're chilling for week 8, but really week 9 and 10 are about to start, and that's when you're preparing for the final. So it really feels like you don't really have that much of a break. You're always working towards that midterm or final, and, it can be stressful, especially since those are the majority of your grade. Honestly, the only time that I felt like I really could chill and relax was during like weeks 1 and 2 before everything really started rolling. So that's definitely a negative part of the quarter system that I am not a huge fan of. But on the other hand, I guess you could say a pro of the quarter system is because it's so jam-packed and because the midterms and finals are so close together, you really retain the information. So I would say I don't have to study as hard as like maybe someone on the semester system does because the information is so fresh in my mind because I literally just had a test on it. So since there's not that much time between the tests, you retain the information a lot more. When it comes to enrollment, make sure you take that time very seriously and choose classes that, first of all, you're interested in, and second, are easy. Because your time outside of class will largely be dependent on how difficult the class is. So there's this website called Walk, and basically everyone goes to that during enrollment period, and there's reviews of all the professors and all the classes, rating each class on difficulty, how well a professor is able to teach a material, and just generally ranking the classes. There are a lot of GEs that you as a UCLA student need to fulfill. So, I mean, if I were you, and what I'm doing is taking the easiest Gs I can possible because I want to raise my GPA as much as I can. So really looking on Walk and researching, finding out what those easy classes are. There's some classes that are notorious for being super easy, so those include like Scandinavian 50. Don't ask me why, but yeah, it's pretty common knowledge around UCLA that the Scandinavian classes are really easy. I took DESMA 8, which is a Design Media Histories course. That was really, really easy. Honestly, I literally slept during every lecture, and the midterm and final were take-home, so you literally just wrote a take-home essay. I've heard Poli-Sci 10 is pretty easy, but yeah, there are a lot of really easy courses that are available to you if you go out and research about them. But at the same time, there are also hard courses, so yeah, overall, I would just say before enrollment, make sure that you really look into the courses. Now, this is where the whole big school thing really comes into play when you're trying to get those easy classes, because let me tell you, enrollment is a stressful period for UCLA students because it's literally the Hunger Games. Everyone has a specific enrollment time over the course of like a few days, so it's literally by the hour. For example, my enrollment time last quarter, first of all, it sucked. It was like 10 p.m. on the last day, so a ton of the good classes, like all the easy classes, were long gone. There are people who have priority enrollment, so that will include athletes and Regent scholars, and also priority goes to upperclassmen. So as a first year, you really are at the bottom of the ranking for enrollment, and with so many students trying to get the easy classes or the good classes, it is very difficult to get those classes. So just to let you know, yes, there are easy classes out there, but don't get your hopes up too high because it is very difficult to get them. Something that I really stress is that you want to make sure you have a ton of backups available during enrollment, because once it's your time to enroll, you want to like go. If the class that you had planned to enroll in is taken, you want to make sure you have a backup so that you can just enroll in that backup right away, because you don't want to spend that time trying to find another course, because in the meantime, other people will swipe up the courses. So make sure you're definitely prepared and you have lots of backups. For me personally, I always made sure that I had at least like 3 backups for each class. Another thing when it comes to academics, this is more generally in college, but I wish I'd known that my entire grade was basically going to be made up of midterms and finals. Like participation and homework grades barely counts for anything in college, and this wouldn't have changed my college decision, like which college I chose, because pretty much all colleges are like this. But yeah, I just wish I'd known that, because I'm not the strongest of test takers, and when your whole grade is basically like 40% of your midterm and like 50% of your final and 10% participation in homework, you know, it can really stress a gal out. So that's definitely something I wish I had known. This next point goes towards freshmen only, so if you're a transfer student, this doesn't apply to you. But basically, freshmen are offered this, I guess like you could say, program where you can knock out 4 GEs for the price of 1. That's like how they advertise it. These are called the cluster programs, and they really sell these hard during orientation and just general freshman enrollment. Unlike a typical class, which lasts for 1 quarter, the cluster classes are year-long. The first 2 quarters, fall and winter quarter, are just like a typical lecture and discussion. You have your midterms, your finals. And then the 3rd quarter, I don't know if this goes for all the clusters, but for most of them that I've heard, you have kind of a seminar style. I think the statistics say that around like 30% of freshmen do clusters. I personally took a cluster. I was in the Mind Over Matter cluster, so that was a lot of psychology and neuroscience, but it was really well-rounded. It wasn't just like the biology or like the chemistry of like neuroscience or something like that. There was a lot of history involved as well. There were multiple professors, multiple TAs. But yes, basically how the cluster works is, so you take the class for 3 quarters. So typically for classes you get like 3 credits worth because it's 3 quarters. But for the cluster class, even though it's a year-long 3 quarters, you get 4 credits done. So 1 extra credit. And you also get your writing 2 requirement done. So I guess that's like another credit in a sense. So obviously during orientation, I was like, wow, this is, you know, really getting a bang for my buck. Like, why not? And yes, it's great that you get those extra credits, but something I wish I'd known is that it wasn't necessarily worth it. Like, I'm not definitely gonna say that I would never take the cluster course or that I would for sure take the cluster course. Like, it's really mixed in my opinion. If I were a freshman, would I take it again? Honestly, I probably wouldn't. But of course it depends on what cluster you take. For me, I took the Mind Over Matter one, and I was really interested in psychology, but not neuroscience. Like, I'm not a huge sciencey person at all. So that was definitely something I struggled with. And with the clusters, because you get those extra credits, the classes are typically more difficult than your average class. There are a ton of different options for clusters, so if you're going to take one, just make sure that you choose a subject that you're genuinely passionate about and interested in, and you're willing to put in the work for. If you're willing to do that, then I think it's a great bang for your buck. 3rd quarter with those seminars, it's definitely a lot more chill, but 1st and 2nd quarter, I would definitely say my cluster course was the course I had the most work in, the most stress about. I don't know if this goes for all cluster courses, but for the Mind Over Matter one, we had a quiz every week, and none of my other classes had quizzes at all. I'm not gonna lie, I strongly considered dropping my cluster course before 2nd quarter, because how it works is during 1st quarter you get your 1 credit, and then you have to continue from there. If you drop it after the first quarter, you just get the 1 credit. But if you drop it after second quarter, you don't like get a second credit, you just get the 1 credit. So it's kind of hard to explain, but basically, if you're gonna do it, go all in. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. That's just something I wish I'd known because I dedicated a lot of time to it and it was definitely my hardest course. The next thing I want to talk about is that obviously UCLA is a very, very big college. There are so many undergrads, so this might apply to other large schools as well. But with a large school, you're going to have ginormous class sizes. So, you know, those typical 200, 250 size lecture halls. And with that, you're not going to get the same sort of relationship with your professor as you may have with your high school teacher. This is definitely important to know going in, and I'm sure you've probably heard of this, like applying to a large school, you're not going to get a close-knit relationship with the faculty as much. You really have to go out of your way and make sure you're like introducing yourself and like repeatedly going to office hours if you want to get to know a professor and if you want them to remember you. So that can be difficult if you want like letters of rec. But also, coming from a small high school, like literally in my class size in high school, there was 80 people total in my grade. And then each class was about like 15 people. So you were really close with all of your teachers. So in that sense, I think it was easier to get individual attention and individual help in high school. Whereas at UCLA, especially like before midterms or finals, if you go to the professor's office hours, don't expect that you're going to be one of the few people there because it gets packed. I mean, obviously it depends on what class it is, but for my bigger classes like math and science classes, before the midterms and finals, there would be at least like 20 people in the office hours. So you can't always really expect that you're going to get all your individual questions answered. So that's definitely a con in my opinion. The next thing I want to talk about is TAs. Obviously I'm not trying to talk bad about TAs or anything, so don't take this the wrong way. TAs are graduate students, so they're just like us, they're students, they're, you know, busy with their own work and they're just trying to make some money and like teach students. But honestly, I haven't had that great of an experience like learning from TAs. I mean, I've really liked getting to know my TAs, like they're really friendly people, but in terms of learning, like they haven't really helped me that much. And I think this is a pretty important point when it comes to academics because your professors, they're only holding office hours like once or twice a week. And those office hours can get pretty busy depending again what class it is. So you really rely on the TA to be the one who teaches you. Your success in a class will really depend on how knowledgeable your TA is and how well they're able to explain the material. So it can be really hit or miss. I've had some classes where the TAs were super helpful. For example, my math class in winter quarter, the TA was very helpful in like teaching us all the material we need to know. Whereas my friend who was in a different lecture for the exact same math course, so it was Math 31B, she had a different TA. She was telling me that her TA was not helpful at all. So even though we were taking the same course, we got drastically different amounts of help from our TA, and as a result, different grades. Not gonna lie, I've literally had TAs several times before when I've gone into their office hours and asked for help, like, hey, what does this mean? Or like, what does this concept mean? I'm kind of confused. They'll be like, oh, that's a good question. Let's Google it. And I'm like, you know, I could have Googled this myself in my dorm. I don't need your help Googling things. So yeah, again, I'm not trying to bash TAs or anything like that. Remember, they're students as well and they're just trying to get through college too. Just don't always rely on the TA to be able to help you because in my case, I haven't always found that to be true. Honestly, the most helpful thing for me in understanding all the material for my classes has either been 1, Khan Academy, 2, Course Hero, or 3, just hiring an outside tutor, which I know not everyone has the means to have. So if you're struggling in a course, I highly recommend checking out like online resources because those are free for the most part and I think they explain things really clearly. Next, I'm going to be going into more social, housing, living, just generally what it's like to live as a student at UCLA. So one thing that's kind of a con, but I guess is also a secret pro because it keeps you in shape, is that there is a lot of walking at UCLA. I'm not exaggerating this at all, but if I were to walk to and from my class, I would say I could take up to 2 hours every day walking for my classes because I live at the very top of the hill. The hill is where all the dorms are. So I basically live on one end of campus and then my classes are on the other side of campus. So if I'm walking to a class, that'll be 30 minutes, and then if I want to walk back to my dorm, that'll be 30 minutes. And then if I have a second class later that day, and I did decide to go back to my dorm, so I would have to walk to my second class, that'd be 30 minutes, and then back to my dorm, another 30 minutes. So see what I mean, how it can add up to 2 hours? Like, it is crazy how much walking there is. Now, in reality, I would say maybe the first couple of weeks I did that where I walked back and forth, but it got tiring real fast. So I learned to either just like stay on campus, like where the classes are, just chill in like a cafeteria or a library or something, so I wouldn't have to go back and forth. Or I would use a Bird or like a Lyft scooter, which is basically those like electric scooters where you just pay by the minute. So that definitely saved a lot of time, but yes, there is a lot of walking at UCLA, and also UCLA is not a flat campus. I have a lot of friends who are in college and they're also like, oh yeah, like there's a lot of walking in my college, but my college is a flat campus. Yeah, no, UCLA has many, many hills. The place where dorms are is literally called The Hill. So there's a lot of incline. As I said, there's the hidden pro of you'll get a lot of steps in and it'll definitely keep you in shape, which I mean is probably a good thing because the dining hall food is really good. I mean, that is why they call UCLA the University of Calves, Legs, and Ass. Okay, I just used up the storage in my first memory card, so second memory card. Here we go. But back to what I was saying, yeah. I think I'll just explain. There's a lot of walking. As I said earlier, the food at UCLA is top-notch. It's really good. In fact, we were ranked #1 on Niche for college with the best dining halls. If you want an in-depth video of an explanation of our meal plans and all the different dining halls and eating places on campus, I actually have a video on that. I'll leave it in the description bar down below, or you can just go over to my channel. So I will definitely mention the food in my pros video, but something I did want to bring up for the cons video is that sometimes you're going to be waiting a long time for your food. This isn't so much when it comes to dining halls, because dining halls you can just swipe in and then you just go and get whatever you want. But especially for takeout places, specifically there's a place called The Study where people pick up sandwiches and salads. And then there's a pickup spot called Ronde, which is also really popular. They have Mexican takeout or Asian takeout. Those places, especially during common meal time, so like around noon for lunch or around like 6-7 p.m. for dinner, they can get really crowded. There's always some sort of line. I have legit had to wait for a salad from The Study for 30 minutes before. So if you're in a rush, like, your girl's got places to go, this isn't always super reliable for getting your food on time. Another thing to note about general like living at UCLA is the washing machines suck. I lived in Hedrick Summit, but I mean, I have friends who live like in all sorts of different buildings on the hill, and everyone agrees that the washing machines just suck. They have the same brand of washing machine in every single dorm building pretty much, so across the board you're gonna get the same experience no matter what dorm you live in. They just don't wash your clothes very well, and something that I had to learn the hard way is that you can't even stuff the washing machine over like half full. If you fill the washing machine even halfway with clothes, some of the clothes at the bottom won't even get wet. So what I did is I would just use multiple washing machines at a time in order to get all my clothes done in like one go. But obviously that's just more money because you're charged for each time you use a washing machine. So I guess another con I would say for me is that I just wish more of my stuff was like spread out and not clumped together in terms of workload, because I would find that during certain weeks, especially like week 3 or 5 or 7, like during those typical midterms weeks, like all my classes would have midterms on the same week, and I was still had all the different organizations and clubs I was a part of. Like, we would still have meetings and stuff. And again, this is speaking personally for me. I was really involved on campus. I was part of a sorority. I was part of 3 different clubs and organizations. I was also a Enabling College ambassador, and that took a lot of time as well. So yeah, I had a lot on my plate in terms of extracurriculars, but obviously all things I love doing. But with that, I just found I could get really overwhelmed and have a lot of work during those typical midterms weeks. So I just had to learn how to manage my time well and really effectively use my weekends. What I would do is during the weekends I would get as much homework as I could done, so that during the weekdays when I had like my club meetings and my sorority meetings and my classes, that I wouldn't feel too overwhelmed. So I guess a takeaway from that is I just wish things were more spread out across the board and not everything was clumped together, but I mean, it is how it is, so you just kind of have to learn how to deal with it and manage your time well. With UCLA being a big school, something that I wish I had known is that you really have to go out of your way and advocate for yourself if you want something. As I said, I came from a small high school, so I would say that the teachers there really not like held your hand, but they made sure that you were cared for and they made sure that you were always on track. So for example, like enrolling in classes, they would make sure that your requirements were all met, But at UCLA, the college counselor is not just going to watch you and like make sure that you're fulfilling all your requirements. You have to make sure that you're doing that yourself. So you don't really get any individual attention or anything like that. There are just too many students. So you definitely have to be proactive, you know, make those college counseling appointments, go to your TAs and professors' office hours, just advocating for yourself and making sure that you are using your voice to get what you need and to get what you want. That is definitely an important skill that I learned here at UCLA. In terms of clubs and organizations, because it is a big school, there are a ton of clubs, organizations, things to find your niche. There are such a big variety of opportunities, and that's something I love about UCLA and I'll go more into during my pros video. But because there are so many students, some of the clubs or organizations can be really competitive and hard to get into. For the most part, most of the clubs are if you want to go to the weekly meetings, you just show up. But there are some different groups that you have to apply for. And because there are so many students, it's not like you're going to get into every single organization that you apply into. I remember first quarter I was really disappointed because there was a club I really wanted to be a part of, but there was legit like 500 students that applied and they were only taking like 70 people, so I didn't get a spot and I was pretty sad about that. But I mean, I did find my other clubs and organizations that I'm super happy to be in, but that's just something to keep in mind because I know during high school, like every club that you sign up for, you are immediately in. In terms of social life and like making friends, something that's really interesting that I found at UCLA is that most of my friends were not people that I met in my classes, but rather like during orientation or for my sorority, different clubs and organizations I was a part of, people on my floor, like in my dorm building. For me personally, I rarely like made friends in my classes because during classes you just like sit there and listen to the lecture that the professor was giving, so not really an opportunity to talk. And also there's just a huge range of people in each class, so there could be seniors in your class and like you're a freshman. I mean, not that like seniors and freshmen can't be friends, but you know what I'm saying? It's just I found most of my friends weren't actually even like people I met in my classes. This isn't necessarily a con, it's just something that I wish that I knew going in so I didn't have like expectations or anything like that. However, I will say for my cluster course, I did make a lot of friends in that class, and I would probably credit that to the fact that the cluster courses are a year long, so they're not just one quarter. And then also the cluster courses are strictly freshmen only, so that's just another opportunity to meet more first years. And in terms of parties, some of my guy friends said that I should probably include this in this video. So here's, I guess, like a con that some of my guy friends feel. But if you're a guy and you're not in a frat, you can't go to the frat parties. Whereas if you're a girl and you're not in a sorority, you can still go to the frat parties. So for my guy friends who are in frats, they, you know, like go to the frat parties. But for my guy friends who are not in frats, they have to find other ways to mingle and like have a social life. It's not that it's difficult or anything. Like there are a lot of guys that don't rush frats, but a lot of my guy friends just say that they wish they had known that. They said that it wouldn't change whether they rushed a frat or not, but it would just have been nice to know. Like you'd have to go out of your way and like find other parties. But there are definitely other parties you can find, like kickbacks or just like people from your classes, clubs, organizations, stuff like that. But if you're a guy and you're really into the party scene, I would probably suggest rushing a frat or at least just checking it out so that you have that opportunity. And lastly, the last con I'm gonna say in terms of social kind of things is that for the most part, our sports teams are really good, but there are a couple sports teams, no shade or anything, but our football team isn't that strong. But the football games are still really fun. The tailgates, the kickbacks, just going out to the game is a really fun way to spend time with your friends. But it's not like the type of thing where you get really hyped about winning, because our football team did not perform very well this last year. Again, no hate, no shade or anything like that to people on the football team. Like, you guys rock. I'm sure that football is very hard and difficult. But if you're looking for a team that performs athletically really well, a lot of our teams do, just not our football team. You know, this next year, I'm sure we're going to do really great, so looking real forward to the games then. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I really hope that this video helped you guys out. I know that UCLA admissions recently came out, so if you're admitted, congratulations, that is so exciting. I'm here to answer any questions that you guys may have, so feel free to leave them in the comments below. Watch out for part 2 of this video where I talk about all of the pros of UCLA and all the things I love about UCLA. Even though I talked about the cons in this video and things I wish I'd known going into UCLA, I really want to stress that I absolutely love my school so much, and it is a great fit for me, and I wouldn't trade UCLA for any other college. So even though I'm mentioning some cons here, there's going to be cons to every college, but yeah, I just wanted to say the things that I wish I'd known going into UCLA so that I can better inform you, for those of you guys who are making a college decision. And yeah, if you found this video helpful, make sure you like it down below and subscribe for more videos. I have a whole UCLA videos playlist, so you can go ahead and check that out. It's on my channel. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye!